All right, good morning from Bend. I just wanted to put something together for all the guys that are either getting fresh or freshly starting with driving. Through the wintertime conditions, things like that. We put together a chain class a while back, and we had quite a few drivers show up. But I'm sure we'll continue to go through drivers. So I wanted to put something together. I'm gonna talk a little bit on how to chain, the chaining requirements for both Washington and Oregon, as well as just some tips that I've picked up over the last couple of years in order to make it a little bit easier to chain. We all know that winter weather sucks to drive in. Anything we can do to make it a little bit easier to get through it ultimately should help. There are multiple ways to chain a tractor and a trailer. The way I'm going to show you today is just what I've picked up, and it works for me and my co-driver. I also want to talk about preparedness a lot too, so we'll get right into it. Really, the number one thing I can tell you about driving truck in the wintertime is be prepared. A couple of things you want to think about is, what's the weather going to be like? So get yourself a really good weather app. I pay for one ultimately because you never know, the weather could change from the time that you go over the mountain to the time you come back, especially on some of the long hauls. So a good weather app I think is essential, and then alerts to where you're driving to. So I've got my alerts. I drive to Bend a lot. So automatically I know what's going on over there before I even go. Once I get up, I know I'm getting ready to dispatch. That's the first thing I look at. Second thing is ODOT, so Oregon Department of Transportation, as well as WDOT, both have good websites. Oregon's Trip Check, I have a link directly to their map. They have an automated map with cameras and information about the road conditions on where we're going. I check that too ahead of time. That'll give me the information I need to know whether or not chains are required in certain areas. It just helps me be more prepared. So ultimately, utilize all the apps that are available to you, the weather, the ODOT, and then also in the tractor, think about your clothing. Right, when you're chaining these trucks, it tends to be very cold. I typically will wear a set of bibs or bring an extra set of clothes just in case I get wet. I also bring warm gloves too. The gloves I use they're relatively cheap, but they're waterproof. That way my hands aren't getting cold. I've had to chain up in 9 degrees or below 9 degrees in the middle of the night. It hurts your hands to chain these trucks. Those chains are heavy, they're wet, it's cold outside, there's people throwing stuff, so clothes, gloves, extra clothes. Make sure when you're leaving, you fuel your tractor. If you know you're going over a long haul, you want to be full just in case something happens on that mountain or on a road, on the side of the road. You're stuck on the side of the road, you can still run the tractor. So it's about being prepared. Ultimately will keep you out of trouble. A couple other things I use in the wintertime is I pick this little guy up at a truck stop. It was like $6. They're all over the place. They're by all means awesome. If I'm backing up or anything and it's wet outside, my co-driver will wipe off that side for me, or I can reach over and wipe it off real quick. It's just perfect for the size of the mirror. If you look at it, it's realistically, especially on our tractors, it fits perfectly ultimately. And then also it has a convex mirror as well, so you can wipe that off quickly as well. So that's another tool I keep in the cab. With chains, you always want to make sure that what you have on the tractor, you have enough to get you by, as well as I carry an extra set. Chains do break over time. They get brittle. If it happens, you want to make sure you have another set with you. Make sure you have cam lock tools available to you. We keep a couple extra inside the truck. I have a tote full of all the items I have for chaining that we throw in the truck. If we're changing trucks, we'll take that tote out of it and put it in the other truck. That way everything is together. So my gloves, my cam lock tools, my spider bungees, which come in super handy. This is another ticket, a must-have for me anyways. Get them while you can, because they do go out of stock. You can tighten them up with regular bungees, but these work better, in my opinion anyways. A lot easier to do, a lot easier to maintain. So keep a couple extra sets of those and get them early too, because if you don't get them now, they're going to be out here in a couple weeks once the snow hits. So just running through that, those are just some of the things that I keep with me and items that I use. Extra clothes, it's stay dry, stay safe, keep the stuff that you need. Also, maybe a lunch or something, and an extra little bit in your lunch just in case as well. So let's talk about the chains. Before the season even begins, just about a week ago, we took all of our chains off our tractor and inspected them straighten them up, clean them up, seeing if we needed to automatically replace any anyways. I also keep enough on the truck to take care of the trailer as well. Oregon State requires 6 chains, basically 1 on every drive tire, as well as 2 drag chains that are offset on the back tandems. And then Washington State, I believe, is 1 on all 4 drives. The outside drive tires, which we'll show you that here in a minute, but also 1 drag chain, I believe, is Washington State. You verify that before you get on the road. I'm not always right. It could change. But right now, I know that's what we're running. So 4 here, 2 in the back, offset on each axle. So 1 on this side up front, 1 on the back on the other side on the tandems. So with that said, like I said, we took it out. We're going to inspect it, and then anytime you go to put these on, you're going to want to inspect them too. So what I do before, I'll set it in front of the tire that I'm working with. The less you got to lift these things, the better. We'll teach you some tricks of that. So when I laid it out, I made sure all my cams are facing that direction, so when I flip the chain up on the tire, they're facing the way that I want to be. Another thing you look at that's very specific on these chains is these little hooks right here need to be facing outwards on the tire when they get on, and I'll explain that a little bit better once I throw this chain on there. But that hook needs to be facing outwards because it can damage the tire if you put it in backwards, and I've seen it happen a few times with drivers put them on backwards. So like I said, lay the chain out before you even get started. Check it, make sure it's straight, go down the line, straighten it up, look at it. Sometimes you'll get a little funky one like this right here that you can tell that chain's not sitting right, so when we throw it on the tire, it's not going to be right. So you got to kind of flip them, and this is why I like to work on this before and ahead of time, so I know that they're going to come out straight. When you set it up, you see how that straightened that up? It straightened those hooks up so they're all the same all the way down. So you might have to do that a couple times, and this is why I do it at the beginning of the winter too, because it saves me time out on the road. They're still going to get messed up on the road, but it's a lot easier to fix all of it and then fix a little bit of it when you get out there on the road. So I've inspected my chain. I've made sure that the hooks here are facing outwards once I throw it on. And then I also want to make sure before I even throw this chain, all my cam locks are in the open position, so I have the most room to work with. Now, when I'm putting on chains, and the way that I do it is we're going to put them on, I'm going to move the tractor either forwards or backwards a little bit, so I'm not having to get down on the ground and grab that back hook. It's a little bit easier. So when I do that, I know I have to move the tractor over it. So I want to consider whether or not I'm on an incline or a decline. If the tractor is on an incline, I'm gonna, in order to set my chains right, which I'll show you here in a second, I'm gonna roll it backwards. So I want to have the least amount of slack on the back side of the tire, and I'll explain that here in a second as well. If I'm on an incline, I'm gonna roll the tractor forward. So I'm gonna plan to roll it forward so I can roll without putting power to the tires, so I don't spit the chain out when I move forward or move backwards. So when I go to set the chain up, I'm going to grab it right in the center here, or a little bit offset. I know I'm sitting here, we're pretty much flat ground, so it doesn't really matter which way I do it. But if I was on an incline, I'd grab it a little bit more towards the front. If I was on a decline, I'd grab it a little bit more towards the back. But right now I'm gonna grab it right about here. I'm gonna take it over to the tire, and you're gonna go ahead and place it over the top of the tire. Take the chain, move it around here. And you don't want a lot of slack on the front, because like I said, I'm gonna roll this truck forward on this one. I'm gonna take it over here, I'm gonna straighten it out on the tire. Make sure your gaps between the front and the rear are about the same, as close as you can get them. Make sure it's sitting on there real good, and like I said, those hooks need to be facing outwards like that, not inwards, outwards, okay? We're gonna take the rest of the slack and kind of tuck it under here, so that way when I roll forward, I don't roll over it with the back tire. Now I'm not gonna set up every chain, but ultimately I would set up all my chains at once. So we would take it, set the one here, the two on the other side of the tractor. I'd take the front tandem on this side, and I'd take the rear tandem on the other side in order for Oregon State law. Now, like I said, I believe Washington, you only required one drag chain. Oregon State requires two. So once I have it set up, all of them set up, I'm going to go into the tractor and move it forward. Give me just a second. My co-driver is going to tell me when to stop, and I'll be right back. All right, so we're back now. I rolled the tractor forward. A couple things I'm going to inspect on all of them as we go over to them. We're going to take a look, make sure we didn't stop on it. Sometimes that does happen. You can work around it, but we'll fix that here in a little bit. And then if you come over here a little bit closer, we'll take a look. Here's your back on this particular style of chain. It's got a hook on the other side. And what you want to try to do in order to keep these nice and straight, like I said, you want these nice and straight across, and you want both sides to have about the same amount of gap. That'll give you a little bit easier of a time. So I'm going to try to get that hook on the back side is right there. Okay, so I'm going to try to get this as tight as I can on the back before I start the front. So lovely enough, I was only able to get about one on there. Okay, you want to try to get it to where it's the same on both sides. If you can't, tight is ultimately the ticket, and you want to make sure it's not going to come off. If you can't, usually what it means is the chain is not level on both sides. So you might have to finagle your chain a little bit to get a little bit more. I can see here that this side, I'm going to take the chain link and I'm going to put it up against this here, and I'm going to check. That's about where that's going to sit. So one link. So I got one link on the back, one link here. That's about perfect, which the first time is beautiful. It's a beautiful thing. Sometimes it happens, sometimes you gotta mess with it. But for the most part, I'm gonna take that chain, slip it on there. I'm gonna put it in its lock. Okay, so now I'm super loose right now. Actually, I think we might be able to do one more link. Let's try to do one more link. All right, good enough. It's like you said, like I said before, this is why you want to make sure you have good clothes, right? I keep a pair of bibs because I'd be fumbling with that, and there's gonna be snow dripping right here. Like this video is done today, and it's a beautiful day. It's not gonna be a beautiful day when we're out there chaining. So be prepared. Good gloves, good set of bibs, or just extra clothes, however you want to do it, something waterproof. So I was able to get that other one. So I'm gonna try to get this on the second link, which I was actually able to. Take that like that. And then what we're going to do is we're going to grab our cam lock tool, which is this guy right here. You can get upgrade versions of these too. I actually have one. I'm not going to give you away my secrets, but you can pick them up at truck stops. Ultimately, these are the standard that come in it. You want to make sure you keep this with you. I pulled that out of the box right here, right? And when you're out here working on these, you're going to set them down occasionally. Don't set them on the ground, set them in your pocket or around where you're at. That way you don't lose them. And also keep extras. I have like 2 or 3 extras in my tractor. So what you're going to do is you're going to start tightening these cams. And the objective is to get as many tight as you can. You're not required to get them all tight, but you want to get as many as you can. Okay? And if you get to the end and it's super loose, what I would do is take this back off, put another link, pull another link on it, and that would tighten it up and leave you the cans. Okay? So right now this is, it's actually, I could probably do one more. Yeah, we're gonna do one more. So I'm gonna show you what happens when it's too loose. So we're gonna take all the cams back off here. You hope you get it right the first time. Sometimes it does take 2. Let's see, I put them all back in the open position. Take this guy off here. See if I can sneak another one in there. So right now I got 2 on this side. Perfect. So I was able to get another one in there. That's why we were running loose. So we're gonna re-tighten the cams. Try it again. All right, so that was pretty tight that time. You'll see that that chain is not going anywhere, okay? That's what you want to see. If you can get a hand under that, you need to retighten it and get it tighter. Okay, after you do that, you're gonna take one of these spider bungees, okay? And same rules apply as the hooks on here, okay? You want the hooks facing outwards. When you grab it, start at the top, find your spot on the bottom, take this side over here, this side here, this side there, try to make it even. Sometimes we got to go to school to figure out how to make it even and do it like that. This right here is about as much as I would let drag, okay? If I had any more than this, maybe another link, I'd take another bungee and I'd run it across. That way that's not sitting there flapping around, okay? Just to help you out. Any more links than that, you need to secure it. So we're chained up. After this, I got all my tires done. That took a few minutes, of course, because I was explaining it. But after this, I would roll the tractor forward about 10 to 15 feet and check my tightness again. After that, once I know everything's good and tight, I'm gonna get back in the tractor, put my stuff away, make sure I got everything. I'm gonna keep my windows cracked. Okay, I think it's important that when you're running these chains, sound is everything. You can imagine one of these chains breaking as you're driving down the road or coming loose, and it's sitting there flapping, tearing up your truck, your trailer, both of them. It's important you listen for your chains. I see it all the time. You guys will be coming down the mountain, you hear this thunk, 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 and that chain is just whipping. It's not only a danger to the truck or the tractor or the trailer, it's also a danger to other cars around. If you hear, and you will hear it, if it breaks, pull over and fix it. I've also heard and seen it of the chains coming loose or coming off and getting in between the drive tires. Ultimately, that could cause you a headache as well. So drive with your windows a little bit down as you're driving. It might be cold, but the heaters work good in these trucks to deal with it. Just saying. So about 2 miles down the road, if I'm running a long haul, like going over Mount Hood, typically we're chained up for like 30, 35 miles. I'll check at 2 miles. I'll get out and just double check it, make sure they're good and tight, and then go from there and keep on trucking. So that's pretty much putting it on. It's not the hardest thing in the world, and you'll get better at it over time. I'm talking about it now. The first time I chained up with my partner, the whole tractor and trailer took us about 45 minutes. Now we can do it in about 15 minutes, which I'm sure we could probably do it faster. I'm not in any hurry to get it done any faster than 15 minutes. It is what it is. Be safe. That's what it is. Double check, triple check, quadruple check again. Make sure it's right. So the next step, I'm going to teach you how to take them off, because there's a specific way that we kind of pick them up in order to make it easier to put it on the carriers. I'm going to go ahead and show you that. So it's pretty easy to take them off. It's just reverse order. What we're going to do is we're going to pull our spider bungee off first. If you do not have a spider bungee, you can use bungee cords and just loop it through. Do what you got to do to make sure that chain's tight. After I do that, I'll take my cam lock tool back out of my bucket that I put it in, believe it or not. Usually it's in my pocket. And I'm going to unlock all my cams through there. Just put the twist. Make sure they're all open, you're good and loose. Push back in that, release that. And there are different styles of chains. Some have hooks, some have this. I prefer this. We're going to undo that side. I'm going to come to the back and undo the hook on the back. Okay. I kind of pull that out of the way. I try to keep it straight. It's a ticket, and I'll show you that here in a minute. When I pull them off, bring this to the front, and as I said, keep that guy in your back pocket. We'll put it back in the bucket. I always have the bucket with me, so I can throw it in the bucket. Take the chain off. I kind of set it off to the side over there. And we're going to roll the tractor forward. Alright, so we're back. Ultimately, I do the snap with the fingers, not be forward. It doesn't work that way, but we'll try it anyways. So I'm going to come over here and have my chains. We're clear of the tractor. We're clear of the trailer as well. Imagine we had chains down there. The way that we pick these up, or the way that I like to pick them up, and what we've learned over time, straighten it out. top here, your top rung, and every 2 is about what I do, and that's about where it sits usually. 2 or 3. You grab a loop, put it on your hand. Every 2, grab a loop, put it on your hand. 2 again, loop, hand. Be right there. Loop, hand. And I take the last one, loop, hand. We'll take it over there. It's nice and neat, so you can carry it with one hand. Place it on there. Once you have them all on there, re-secure them, and you're good to go. Now, like I said, I'm putting this together for all the new drivers out there. A lot of old timers probably have different tricks. I'm not looking to go over anybody. This is what's worked for me and my partner. I appreciate the time. I hope this helps. Like I said, all 4 drives, 2 drag chains on the rear. Look it up. ODOT has a specific diagram, and so does Washington State. Take a look at it. Be prepared. That's the #1 thing I can tell you about being out on the road. Have a great day, guys.